listening to the Betmaker Show. This is the NFL Week 9 preview for Monday, October 28th, 2019. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of the Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
All right, folks, here we go. It's a brand new week. Looking forward to the opening numbers for the NFL. As always, we turn to our global expert, Jack, our NFL odds maker, is going to roll out the great information for us. But before we get going, let's just do a little quick look in the rearview mirror. And before we went on the air, Jack, you were saying, and it's true, I mean, just as water cooler talk or whatever you want to call it, there are a lot of these games that sometimes they're just tough to watch.
Oh, it's flag after flag. Every time there's a big play, everybody's turning their head around to see what's going to happen.
Well, you tell me when this is me anyway. Every time you see a punt, and we don't see very many good punt returns anymore, but when you see a decent punt return, are you absolutely like your jaw drops when you're just expecting that yellow, the yellow graphic to pop up flag?
I automatically look at the bottom of the screen to see that flag flash up on the side there. And you know what's going to happen. That's why there's no punt returns, very few kickoff returns, and it goes on and on like that. I mean, especially there's nobody recovers an onside kick anymore because they can't run up to start or get a running start.
Wild. Let's recap it from the house perspective. Did the players fare well, or was it the book's turn?
We loaned the players a lot of money.
Now that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it was a good weekend, especially teasers. There's no way you could play a teaser and lose.
Any game in particular that was the real blow?
No, not really. I mean, New England was probably the biggest loser of the day, and second might have been to build the teasers was Houston.
The funny thing is, I mean, it's not like when these things happen and you're trying to generate two-way action, and the perception is, oh man, the numbers always fall. They fall around the number like 33% of the time. But the New England game specifically, that's a completely different football game. I mean, you wake up the box score, oh yeah, New England killed them. If Chubb doesn't fumble the kickoff return, he returns a kick, he's down to the 2-yard, 3-yard line, fumbles a football. Completely different game. I mean, Cleveland's in the game with a chance to win, let alone cover.
And the play where they tried the trick play with Mayfield with the flip to the running back coming across the other way, and the defensive lineman got right in the way and intercepted the pass. Which, even if he drops it, it's a shovel pass, and that's over. But, yeah, I thought Cleveland played well, actually, outside of the turnovers, which are a big part of the game.
All right, let's go. We get brand new numbers looking ahead. San Francisco, we're looking at kind of a consensus of an 8-point favorite at Arizona, total 44.5. For starters, what's your opening number? Jack, what was the thought process? And maybe what was the number going to be Saturday before the games were played? Because what do we make of this Niners team?
We make this Niners team pretty good. I mean, we had confirmation against the Rams, and it was doubly confirmed yesterday. It was Carolina, not a great team, but not the worst team in the world, and they were dominated throughout. And going into this week, we opened this game up at 7, and currently it's 8. And I think by game time you'll see this climb up.
I don't know. No way it's ever 10. 7 again. That's for sure.
No, I don't know if you'll get to 10, but you'll get to 9.5 for sure.
Well, the bottom line is, I mean, you're not trying to shoot holes at them. You just look at them. I mean, they got a bevy of running backs that are like reindeer. Their defense plays with speed and ferocity. The only stumbling block is Garoppolo. And that is, every blue moon. But you can say this about all quarterbacks. He makes some confounding decisions. But boy, oh boy, I mean, you just look at what they've done. How has their rating changed? Let me ask you that. I mean, what, in your estimation, are they one of the biggest movers, if not the biggest mover?
I would say, and first I'll give you my opinion. If San Francisco and New England met on a neutral field, I think it's pick. Before the season started, I think you'd have to say New England would have been in this 8.5-point range.
That's amazing. That's a great little nugget of information there. All right. Let's go to Houston and Jacksonville. The Houston 2.5 it was what we're seeing.
We're using 2 currently. We opened the game 3. It's gone down to 2. Houston played well yesterday, but I sort of understand this. Houston is a decent team, an above 500 team. Jacksonville hanging right around there, but you're playing at home, and it's a tough game, and I don't see much movement either way.
Jacksonville, I would think, is another one, I don't know that you're still trying to get a read on them, but the Minshew kid's been phenomenal for them.
He has. He's done an excellent job. And I also think they say Foles may return for week 11. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that would cause a problem for them if this kid keeps playing as well as he has been. But right now, they're a decent team.
But you bring up a great point, because the Carolina thing, we're like, well, I don't know what they're going to do when Cam Newton comes back. And, so they got rolled yesterday. I don't know that one game would definitely just, change that belief the way the Panthers had been going. But with Minshew and Foles coming back, that one might be not a soap opera, but that one might be an interesting decision too.
Oh, sure. It will be. And I think a lot will depend on these few games. So there's a little more pressure on him. If they continue to play well and end up above 500 going into the week he comes back, I think he stays in the quarterback position.
All right. We move on to Washington and Buffalo. What were you looking at here, Jack, from an opener?
We opened this game 10. Now, we don't have it up at the moment. Later on today, they should find out about Case Keenum. He is in concussion protocol. They should find out today if he's able to play this weekend. And the difference would be Buffalo would be a 10-point favorite with him in, and Buffalo probably 12 with him out.
Yeah, Washington, a little extra time to prepare for this. It's funny, we were talking earlier just about, Cleveland. Chubb fumbles the ball, how a game changes on a dime. The Buffalo-Philadelphia game, it's 7-3. The Eagles can't get a first down. But it's a weird game, and I don't know, you can't throw it out like you could the Redskins game in the monsoon with the Niners. But right before the half, on a 3rd and short, I don't know why you're having the quarterback run the ball, but Allen fumbles the ball and basically hands Philly 8 points. Then they get the ball right to start the second half. I was like, one play and the game was over. One goofy play kind of changed the game. I would think this might be a mad Buffalo team after the last couple of weeks. They've not played well.
No, I'd agree with you. They should be fired up for this game. It's 2 weeks in a row they haven't played well. They beat Miami, but God knows they struggled. And Washington should be a team that should come in there and they should be able to take care of. But I'm going to think there's going to be money for the underdog in this one.
Okay, we swing on and move to Tennessee, Carolina. What was the thought process here before the weekend?
Before the weekend, Carolina was 4.5 with a total of 40. Currently, it sits at 3.5 and 41.5. With the Panther game, Newton is not expected to play. Kyle Allen will remain the quarterback. And he had a tough day yesterday, but we just talked about how good the San Francisco defense is. He was under a lot of pressure. He threw the interceptions, but when you get behind and you have to make a play, errors occur.
Jack, I always try to draw this analogy when the NCAA tournament comes out. I'll never forget the one year the Big East had 9 teams in. And, look at the greatest conference ever. They went like 1-8. Then you get to bowl season, and then you say, this conference is a stud in bowl season, or they're all collectively spitting the bit. I don't know that the NFL, you could necessarily do the same thing, but it's funny. It's kind of played out that way before the season. We talked about this AFC South. You could throw a blanket over these teams, and pretty much anytime any of these teams take the field, it's kind of a back alley fight.
It is. They're equally distributed as far as their potential is, and it's played out that way the whole year. I think you mentioned that during the preseason to me, and you're right. You're sitting Indy's 5-2, Houston 5-3, Tennessee 4-4, Jacksonville 4-4. Obviously, Indy has the upper hand, but things could change this weekend. They go to Pittsburgh, and they could easily lose that one.
Yeah, and then the other thing, Chicago and Philly. This is before you tell me what you were thinking here. The funny thing is, the Philly thing. I follow the Bills quite closely. I was terrified of that game. In that, Philly, after getting pumped by Dallas, their season basically was on the line there. And it's weird to say that when you're so far out, but it really was. And they played like it. And then Chicago, another punch to the gut. And again, a chip shot field goal to win the game. One team's feeling their oats today. Another one kind of has the woe is me mentality.
Well, in a sense, it's on the coach. He was playing for, I believe it was a 39-yard field goal.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened is early in the game, they lost all faith in Trubisky. Every time they got near the goal line, it was, we'll pound it and we'll take a field goal. And they missed 2 of them. The question here is, are they going to let Trubisky play or not? And if not, put Chase Daniel in there. But they put all the wraps on him after that second. They had wraps on him before he started playing poorly. Then after the second interception against to the right-hand side, we're going to run the ball and we're going to try and win the game this way, and you can't do it in the NFL.
Let's make some money tonight.
For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. Intriguing game, nothing on the board yet. Now, this will be quite interesting to hear your take, Jack. Minnesota is at Kansas City. Kansas City loses to the Packers. The quarterback was not the problem for the Chiefs. What's the Mahomes in number, and what is the Mahomes out number?
Mahomes in, Kansas City would be 3-51. That's based on the fact that Thielen should return this week. If not, let's say that game would go to 3.5. With him out, much like the Green Bay game, it's about a 6.5 point swing. The Vikings would be 3.5 and 46. And you're right. Matt Moore didn't play poorly last night, but it's the plays that he couldn't escape where Mahomes would and make a big play out of it.
I would think it's funny you mentioned Thielen. I would think Thielen and Diggs were, they're sitting on their recliner salivating watching that Chiefs secondary last night.
Right. And Andy Reid is a good coach, but with the 4th and 3, I don't know why he thought they'd have time to get the ball back and score. It was more like, we got to go for it now, but I guess he saw it a different way.
Well, you got to put a number up on it, Jack. What'd you decide? Jets in Miami.
Jets in Miami. We opened 5.5, and it's stagnated right there. We're still at 5.5 and 41, and I don't think anybody cares about this game.
Well, that was going to be my question, Jack. I mean, we're half joking. I mean, we're serious, but we're half joking. But I'm curious, when the game is per se a clunker, that doesn't mean you got to mind your P's and Q's, because believe me, the Sharps or whatever, they'll be out there and they'd love to take you out at the knees. Bottom line is, if it's on the board, it matters every bit as much as the other games. But because it's that kind of game, how much lower is the handle on a game like this?
Right. Well, first we have to see Miami get through tonight's game and see how that works out.
Right.
But at 5.5, and naturally, a New York-based team and a Miami-based team, there's always going to be the locals are going to bet their game. But I think nationally, the handle could be down on this game. And like you're saying, there's always interest in it. Somebody will think they have an edge. The number will move a little, but nobody will be clamoring for this game. That's for sure.
All right, and then we move on to Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. And as you said, the Steelers involved on a Monday night. What was the thinking heading into the weekend? What'd you put up? And then what might be the reaction following the Monday night game where you think this number may go? Because it's not near a key number, so it could be volatile.
Right. We opened Pittsburgh pick and 43.5. Currently, Indianapolis is pick 15 on top and 43.5. And the original send-out was 1.5. We cut that down a little because I think Pittsburgh is improving. And we'll see what happens. They're missing the defensive lineman. Tullett is out for the year. That could be a factor. But if Pittsburgh plays well tonight, Pittsburgh becomes a short favorite. They play poorly. Indy becomes a 2-point favorite.
All right, then we go. I think this is a really intriguing football game. Detroit and Oakland, two teams that are really close to being really decent.
They're close. They're not quite there, though. They both have games on the line. Detroit had many chances to put that game away yesterday, and they just couldn't do it. They won the game. That's great for them, but their defense is just so porous, giving up yardage. Their best cornerback, Darius Slay, he didn't play yesterday. He's questionable for this weekend. Oakland played a more formidable opponent in being on the road at Houston. I think that edge would go to them. We opened Oakland 1-51. It's up to 2-51.5. The points with any good weather should be lighting up the board. Neither team will be able to have any success against the other's offense, but I think Oakland could climb to 2.5 and maybe 53.5 on the total.
Well, Jack, honestly, in this one instance, let me ask you, what is home field worth? Because the Raiders haven't played in front of their fans since September 15th.
That is outrageous. It's a scheduling quirk. But they always have rabid fans in Oakland. They were out there for the opening night with the Denver game. They'll be out there again. They'll be supporting them as much as they can be. And it's not like you're going to find a lot of Detroit fans out on the West Coast.
Tampa Bay and Seattle, what I'm intrigued by is going to be the total here. Give me the thought process on this number.
We opened up Seattle 5.5 and 53.5. It's climbed to 6.5 minus 15. The total stayed, but I'm with you. Tampa Bay, I mean, they dominated that game yesterday and somehow managed to lose it. I don't know how they do it, but I do know how they do it. Winston ends up creating big turnovers at important times. And then they had a big 4th and 1 play that they failed with late in the game. But Seattle's a consistent team, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this number come back down because Tampa Bay is sort of a hang-in-there type of team. And Seattle, at home, we're giving them that extra point, but they're not a blowout team either, I don't think.
The crazy thing is, I mean, you can't predict turnovers, but I think in Jameis Winston's case, you can.
Yes.
What you can't predict is where will they be. So, like if you were playing a total, I mean, if he drives them right down the field and he throws a pick at the 3-yard line, well, the total could just shut right down. But this kid's capable of going up and down the field, hitting a home run at any time, or throwing a pick 6 at any time. I don't know how you'd ever step up to the plate and play an under with these guys.
I think like most average quarterbacks, they have a play designed, and if the play is covered, they go through throwing it anyway. Whereas the Bradys, the Roethlisbergers, those exceptions, they check down off that first receiver, and they see the second or third guy that's open, and they make that play.
How quiet a 6-2 team is Seattle?
Very quiet, very quiet. They've had a decent schedule. When Baltimore went up there and beat them the last time, but if you look at them throughout the year, they managed to get Cincinnati at home. They went to Pittsburgh, and actually that was the game Roethlisberger got hurt, and that was a very tight game, 28-26. They lost that one. I'm sorry, they won that one. Then they caught the Saints at Arizona, Rams at Cleveland, Baltimore at Atlanta. There's almost 3 or 4 wins guaranteed on that schedule, and they've created another 2 out of the tougher part of the schedule. So they're overachieving. This
one, Cleveland and Denver. What do you do here? Because we alluded to this earlier. I thought the Browns showed up with a decent effort against the Patriots, and the Patriots were asleep at the switch. The game was kind of there for the taking. Cleveland should be kicking themselves today.
Oh, there was a big play. I can't remember. It was late in the third, and I was 3rd and 10. New England on their own side of the field, and they threw that screen pass that went for about 50 yards. And it turned the game, plus the turnovers. Cleveland played well. The effort they should be proud of. The execution with the turnovers, that's something they'll have to work on. But they're going to go play a team that if you rush Joe Flacco, you're going to get some turnovers. I think this would be a game that would go to Cleveland, a 1-point favorite.
Well, it's not Monday morning quarterbacking. I remember watching the play. It's about the 45-yard line. It's 3rd and 5, and it was Denver just playing not to lose and just run it into the pile. Oh, they used a timeout. Like, if that were the Patriots, now Flacco's not Brady, so let's start with that. But it's 3rd and 5, and you tell me you got a 3rd and 5 play, first down, you win the game. I mean, let's win the game. Running it in the pile and saying, well, we took the timeout from them, you're still giving them a chance to win. That mentality, I think, that's got to kill a team.
Well, during a game, the coach will show you how much confidence he has in his quarterback. And as you point out, they show that the organization and the coach, they really don't want to put it on Flacco's shoulders. They want to put it on their defense, much like we talked about before, Chicago. They didn't want Trubisky to mess up the game. They just want to kick a field goal, even if it was a 40-yarder, and make like it's automatic. So,
and then I don't know. The Green Bay's at the Chargers. Rodgers is the throw Rodgers made, falling down and dropping it on a dime in the corner of her end zone to Jamal Williams.
It was a fantastic play. It really was.
That's an all-time play. That just speaks volumes, and we've seen him make a gazillion of them. But it's absolutely jaw-dropping. A flick of the wrist, it ends up as he's falling down with a defensive lineman on him, a flick of the wrist, 20 yards. But, I mean, it literally, it was a 1 foot window that he had to hit, and he did it. So the Packer feeling their oats right now. And I don't know what you do with this Chargers team, man. They are just, they hang around, but how do you trust them?
Yeah, you can't. They're at best a mediocre team. I don't think they'll improve as the year goes along. I think a big blow for them was they had that rookie safety last year who was out for the season this year, and I think he was a big factor on their defense. And I think Rivers is a little long in the tooth, and his act of going crazy on the sidelines and yelling at receivers and referees and coaches, it's getting old.
New England finally has to step up to the plate here with games at Baltimore, at Philly, Dallas, at Houston, then Kansas City. So it's been a parade through town for the Patriots. Now they jump into the deep end of the pool. What are you looking at? What a good Sunday night game. New England at Baltimore.
Their medal will be tested. New England opened 4.5 and 46.5. It's currently 3.5 and 44.5. There's some smart money for Baltimore to start this off. And I think it's appropriate. Like you're saying, this would be one of the first times they're really challenged. And Jackson, I think, can provide them. He can give a little oomph to the offense with adding that element of the quarterback running. And I think it'll be a very interesting game to watch.
Yeah, that's a wild one. I mean, a pretty high total. I mean, the New England defense still remains spectacular. I mean, I don't know if we're approaching 85 Bears numbers. They're not that kind of defense, but in terms of what they actually allow, it's remarkable.
Oh, no, their turnovers, I mean, they're plus 17 in turnovers, and that's through, what are they, through 8 games?
Yeah.
They're plus 2.12 a game or something like that. That's 8 points right there.
And then let's wrap it up with the Monday night game in NFC East showdown, Dallas at the Giants.
Dallas, the last time they went into New York, they played the Jets the day that Darnold returned, and they lost a tough game. Probably should have won it, but they lost. Now they're facing another team that's not that good, and they're a 7-point favorite. They opened 7. It's currently sitting at 7. And there's always money for like a home dog on a Monday night, but I don't see much movement in this game at all. I think if it bounces up, they take it right back, and conversely, they'll lay the 6.5. So I think 7's an excellent number here.
And Crystal Ball me will go a week out. With the Saints off a bye, they'll be at Atlanta. I mean, the specific number or your belief in that game specifically, I'm not so concerned with. But Breeze comes back, and you're like, man, why would you rush him back? They've got the bye. But you know what? He wanted to play to shake the rust off. Well, was it a function of who he played? Because this New Orleans team, incredible run they went on with Teddy Bridgewater. Look out is all I can say.
Yes. This is the best defense they've ever had there. And with Breeze back, Bridgewater was good. With Breeze back at the helm, they're even a little better. And when you talk about, and naturally we'll have to see, I'm sure Ryan will be back by then for Atlanta, but Schwab didn't play that badly yesterday. They got off to a bad start, but he had a decent second half against a team that was letting up in Seattle with a 24-0 lead. But it'll be a good game, but New Orleans will be a big, big favorite.
I know, because we always caution the players. Now, don't go overboard. Don't overreact to what you last witnessed. But that being said, let me ask the odds maker, okay, yeah, you got a Breeze in number, a Breeze out number, and the drop-off from Breeze to Bridgewater. But when the offense sings like a top, albeit it's just in one game, for him to do that off such a long layoff, would you bump them up even a point, a half point, a point and a half more for the next game just based off what he looked like after not having seen him for so long?
Well, basically we had the difference of, I believe it was 4 points from Bridgewater to Breeze. So all those games that New Orleans played in the meantime, you would add 4 points to them, approximately 3-4 points. So No, I would change. The rating would stay the same with him in there. And he didn't pick on the toughest team in the world yesterday with the Arizona defense. They gave 5-10 to him yesterday. But during the year, I mean, they've given up the last few games. 263 was good. 444, 370, a series of 400s to start the season. So, no, I couldn't upgrade him with him doing that against Arizona.
Always great stuff. Jack says sometimes these games are tough to watch. Well, we start a brand new week with Miami and Pittsburgh tonight. Jack, the trend continues. Just give us the update on the Monday night number. What you opened, where you sit.
The Monday night game, we opened up 17, and the smart guy said that was way too much. We're down to 14, and I think it'll stay there. I think there might be a little comeback. Pittsburgh might close 14.5, but they're not sold on Pittsburgh. As bad as Miami is, they're not sold on Pittsburgh as being the type of team that can lay 14 points.
There you have it.
And I wish I could reconsider the opener, but I can't.
That's right. You know, all you can do, hey, listen, yesterday's dead and gone. All you can do is look at the day and tomorrow.
I'm just glad it's not
like
me.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Hopefully that it doesn't fall 15. How's that?
All right.
Jack, always great information. We appreciate you jumpstarting our week. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Betmaker, let's make some money tonight.
Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com, and reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer, Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At betmaker.com and the Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling. An approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.